Hello, I'm Jalynn Prince, President and co-founder of Madison House Autism Foundation, and we welcome you here with us today. I had the honor of being your host for this first ever Autism After 21 event that is virtual. We are gathering people from around the country with us. Typically, we have our events in a smaller venue on the 21st of April near Washington, D.C. Because of COVID and the things that have been happening nationally, we are now presenting this across the country at a little bit later date. We would like to thank all of our sponsors that have helped to make this possible, and all of you out there for your support, your kindness, and understanding. We are calling this a day of action because we would like to have everyone here participate not only in being aware of autism, but to go on beyond that and to accept what autism is and to appreciate what it can bring into our communities. At the same time, understand the challenges that families and individuals on the autism spectrum may face. We would like you to learn about what autism is and isn't, and take that knowledge into your communities to make certain that there's better policy, that you have greater understanding, and that your family, extended family, or neighbors that are living with autism, that you may have a greater understanding of the complexities of autism and what that brings into the lives of families. I want to show you something very important to us. This is our logo. We don't work with a puzzle piece because we are working with adults, those over the age of 21, and looking at lifespan issues. This, in a contemporary fashion, spells Madison House Autism Foundation with the capital letters. But you'll notice that each one of the segments in our logo are a different shape or a different color, none of them being exactly the same, which represents the complexity of adults on the autism spectrum. There are so many gifts, so many talents, yet with so many challenges that need to be addressed. We will be talking about the wide range of individuals, possibilities, and how we can make our country and nation more autism friendly. There's a thank you that I need to give to our staff that has been absolutely wonderful in putting this together. John Solberg, our executive director, Mark Robbins, our associate director, Claudia Hanbury for all of the work that she's done, Jonathan Adams, who is doing our video and editing, and also Taylor McCarthy for all of the technical work that she has provided. It takes a team and it takes a nation to make a difference. One of our most avid supporters happens to also be our congressman. He has been very helpful with us with initiating Autism After 21 Day. Typically, it is celebrated on the 21st of April in Autism Month, and it is named Autism After 21 Day and is declared on Capitol Hill in the Congressional Record by our friend Jamie Raskin. Jamie has been instrumental in keeping the information about adults current in the minds of his colleagues and those on Capitol Hill, having a tremendous outreach into the highest areas of government. We thank him for everything that he has done. He is a fascinating individual. A few of his things, he is perhaps best known on Capitol Hill for his expertise on the Constitution. He is a constitutional expert, and you will see him interviewed about issues of this nature. He is a graduate of Harvard, undergraduate, and also for his law degree there. He serves on several committees and is highly respected on the Hill and throughout his community. I turn the time now to Jamie Raskin.
Hey, it's Congressman Jamie Raskin, representing the wonderful people of Maryland's 8th District and also representing, Madison House and the whole Prince family. And I am so proud of their extraordinary work in service of the greater autism community, and especially for their launching this magnificent project about autism after 21, and making sure that we are rendering important investments in the continuing education and career life and professional life of people with autism after age 21. And this is a community that has so much to offer, and that is proving every day how much it has to offer. So I want to just thank Jalen Prince and the whole Prince family for bringing a spotlight onto what adults with autism can do. And we've got to keep the focus going on autism after 21, and we should be doing everything in our power to get people to open up their minds to the possibilities of this wonderful community. So thank you. I'm sorry we can't be together as we still labor under the strictures of COVID-19 and this terrible plague on the land, but I'm sending you my solidarity, my encouragement, and my love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie, for your kind support. We would like to now introduce you to somebody that has been doing some important writing for us. A young woman whose name is Kennedy Oniyuha, and she is a student at Johns Hopkins University in her junior year, and she is on track to become a physician. She is a self-advocate for autism and wants to increase awareness within the medical community about autism. This video is a mini documentary, part of our series of Imagine 21. It spotlights the lives of adults who are on the autism spectrum, and we are premiering her video here today. We're delighted to have Kennedy, and now hear things in her own words.
This year has been a lesson in adaptability.
It's a little bit of a disaster.
As soon as I can make plans, the world just decides to unmake those plans. And I like plans. I was going to be a junior this year, which is the first year that you get to live off campus. I finally got my own apartment and I picked out my whole class schedule. Then Hopkins said, actually, you can't come back to campus. So I kind of had to reshift everything. I picked different classes that would be better for my time zone. Half of my stuff has still been in Baltimore, so I had to drive back to get all of that. It's just been a little bit crazy. But because I've done hard things before, I know that I can do this thing as well. It has been hard preparing myself to come to college and to set myself up to thrive. As a child, I kind of got by because I'm like enduringly quirky, like I'm kind of adorkable. But like kids with autism grow up into autistic adults. And as I become an adult, I become less adorable and more dorky, borderline weird. If I'm like slapping or rocking, that's not like, oh, a cute type of thing. It's just like, what is wrong with this person?
Thank you for housing all of my stuff. Virgil, this is only because I just love you a lot.
Our society is so focused on autistic children that sometimes we kind of forget how to accommodate adults who are autistic.
Look what I have. And I didn't think it. I might be taking it next.
I'm nervous about going into medical school and being the only autistic person. There's not a lot of neurodiversity in our healthcare system. A lot of current autism research and funding is going towards curing autism or basically teaching people how to just not be autistic.
Okay, love you.
When we treat autism like it's inferior, like there's something wrong with it, we're really just ignoring all the really good things about being autistic. I think we should actually celebrate and utilize differences to help and improve society. I'm super passionate and super tenacious, so I will be my patient's #1 advocate, and I will learn everything I can, and that's because I am hyper-focused and hyper-fixated. I am just a lot of cool, beautiful, wonderfully matched up parts. I'm proud of my race, I'm proud of my gender, I'm proud of my neurotype. And even though those things might present some challenges for me, they also give me a lot of strengths. And because of them, I've acquired a lot of skills that I know will make me a good physician and a good friend and just a good person. I have a lot to contribute to society. As I grow up, I'm looking forward to contributing that, to making a good future for myself and for everybody else, because I have the ability to do that.
Kennedy, we appreciate you sharing your story with us. Your story will join with many others that we have on our website, those that have been shown at film festivals and at many other events across the country. I know people are going to enjoy your story. Today, the first part of our program addresses the housing crisis facing adults with autism. There is a wide range of abilities on the spectrum, from NASA engineers to IT, from law to research. Yet there are many who find daily life very challenging. Without wise planning on the parts of families, communities, and national government, we will not be able to create appropriate types of housing for the over 1 million children with autism who will enter adulthood in the coming decade and join the ranks of millions that are already living with autism. I hear comments on a daily basis. What will happen to my adult child when I am no longer around? Where will they live, and who will care for them in such a way that their potential is reached and that they can contribute in their own way to the community? A few weeks ago, a friend of mine on the spectrum reminded me of another concern. To protect our conversation, I will call him Michael. He said to me, "Mrs. Prince, I've been reading about the work that Madison House is doing in housing. I am very worried about what will happen to me when my parents die. Where can I live? Will I have friends? And will I have people that can help me when I need help? I worry too. Who will help me with shopping or banking or going to the doctors or following instructions? I'm afraid I will be alone with no one to turn to. How do I plan for that awful day when my parents die? What will happen when there's no one here to help me?" Michael's concerns are real, and if we take action together, we can help folks like Michael and his parents who lose sleep worrying, along with his siblings who want to be involved with their siblings' lives, but they have their own families. With wise planning, we can save the worry and concern and also make good economic sense. Studies are showing that there's a greater number of autistic individuals that are homeless, and people in correctional facilities and in the police are telling us of the large number of people that are in our jails and prisons that are on the spectrum. This does not need to be the case. I ask you thought leaders to join us in helping address this and other issues. Now I have the opportunity to introduce the other co-founder of Madison House Autism Foundation, my husband, Dr. Gregory Prince. He joins us from the other side of the country today as he is in his laboratory there. He will introduce our recipient of the Madison Award. Greg?
I'm Greg Prince, co-founder of Madison House Autism Foundation. It is my honor to bestow upon Andrew Solomon the Madison Award for the year 2020. 12 years ago, a mutual friend introduced me to Andrew Solomon. Over the subsequent dozen years, I have come to regard him not just as a dear friend, but as a brilliant writer, a brilliant public speaker, a humanitarian, and one whose impact on the earth is going to be profound and lasting no matter where he goes and no matter what subject he tackles. In 2000, he was awarded a National Book Award for his book, The Noonday Demon, which is considered by many to be the Bible on the subject of depression. More recently, he published another award-winning book, Far from the Tree, which talks about atypical families and how they deal with everyday life. One of those families is the Allnut family in Maryland, who have an autistic adult son. It is for Andrew's work in the field of adult autism that we are bestowing upon him this award. A brief word about the award itself. 2 years ago, our good friend Dr. Daniel Fairbanks attended our annual Autism After 21 Day breakfast at Congressional Country Club in Maryland. While the breakfast was proceeding, Dan was on the podium sculpting a clay bust of our son Madison. Subsequent to that time, he has refined that bust. It is now undergoing casting, and replicas of that bust will be given out each year to the recipient of the Madison Award. I now introduce to you Andrew Solomon.
It's a great honor for me to accept the Madison Award today. I'm very sorry not to be accepting it in person, not to be in an enclosed space with all of you. I hope and pray that the time is not far off when COVID will be under control and we will be able to return to in-person gatherings. I hope I'll meet all of you then. I also wanted to say that it's a particular honor because I so admire Greg and Jalynn Prince for the extraordinary work that they have done and for the extraordinary people that they are. Greg and I met through mutual friends more than 15 years ago, and over that time, he's come to have a more profound influence on my life than I would ever have guessed from the circumstances of that first meeting. And I've come to understand the structures of his family and to be impressed, so impressed by the work that Jalynn has done, by the work that Greg has done, by the work that Madison, in his way, has done. They're a remarkable family. There are a few truly good people in the world. The Princes are truly good people, and I'm honored that they have been involved in the selection of me for this award. I'm impressed also by the exquisite care that Greg and Jalynn have offered to Madison. Most parents of children with marked autism are overwhelmed. They are only just holding on and only just managing to function. It's an extraordinary tribute to the Princes that in addition to taking care of their own child, they recognize needs that exist out in the world for the care of other people's children. They've done amazing things, and the existence of Madison House points to their generosity and their generosity of spirit. Likewise, it points to the urgent need we have as a nation and as a world for better facilities to take care of people with autism as they age out of the educational system. Right now, we have in most states reasonable supports for children with autism until they reach whatever that state has declared is the end of their schooling. And then they're left with nothing. They have nowhere to go. People who often require constant care may have no one to care for them, no one who's able to care for them. It's a rising public health crisis. Now, autism is a disability, and autism is an identity. And seeing the disability piece and the identity piece at the same time can be difficult, but it's an important thing to be able to do so that we don't end up having people with autism being treated in the desperate ways they are, being killed by irresponsible police, being murdered sometimes by their own desperate parents. We have to understand what autism is insofar as it's possible for those of us who don't have autism to do so. I tumbled into the field of autism awareness I was interested in families dealing with children who were different from them in a broad range of ways, ranging from the families of gay people to the families of people who were prodigies, to the families of people with conditions such as autism. And I was interested in how people managed to construct identity out of their own desperation. And one of the things that I saw as I continued that work was that there were people within the world of autism who could articulate their experience. Jim Sinclair, an autistic adult who does not speak and who has written only a very few short essays, wrote in one of them, "When people say, 'I wish my child did not have autism,' what they're really saying is, 'I wish the autistic child I have did not exist, and I had a different, non-autistic child instead.' That is what we hear when you mourn over our existence. And this is what we know when you pray for a cure, that your fondest wish is that we will cease to be, and strangers you can love will move in behind our faces." That's a narrative of what it means for parents of children with autism to contemplate their children's condition entirely as an illness. The question of moving toward identity is a complex one. You have a child who isn't what you were expecting. What are you to make of that child? Betsy Burns, whom I had interviewed many times in the course of her experience with the child with autism, said to me toward the end of a 10-year interview process, "Cece is the Zen lesson." Why does Cece have autism? Because Cece has autism. And what is it like being Cece? Being Cece. Because no one else is, and will never know what it's like. It is what it is. It's not anything else. And maybe you'll never change it. And maybe you should stop trying. My mother's best friend used to say, if a relationship isn't rising to your standards, consider changing your standards. Finding meaning is creating meaning. The meaning is there to be found in every human life, and an autistic life is a fully human life. I'm pleased to be sharing the virtual podium tonight with Amy and Bob Allnut. The research that I described was research I did for my book, Far from the Tree. And when it came time to make a movie of Far from the Tree, we got to know the Allnuts. The Allnuts are among the people who went through that transformation and who can narrate it and who can describe it. They went from having a child who was nothing but a challenge and an exhaustion, whom they loved nonetheless, but by whom they felt utterly overwhelmed and about whom they felt desperate, to having a son who remains very definitively autistic, but with whom they were able to establish communication, and whom they loved not only because parents tend to love their children, but also for the specific and remarkable person he is, Jack Allnut. They found the meaning in their experience. They didn't end up having to sacrifice the finding of meaning because of the struggles that they had. When you make a documentary film, you're lucky if you can find people who are articulate, introspective, and physically attractive. And we were lucky to find the Allnuts who met all of those criteria. But the real reason that it was moving to us to interview the Allnuts and that we chose to tell their story is because it's a story of generosity. It's a story of a child who was unable to communicate anything and angry and frustrated, and whose parents tried one intervention after the next, desperately trying to reach him, only to find out that he had understood a lot of what they were saying all along and hadn't been able to communicate responses. And then he had his breakthrough. And then, as Bob Allnut said, it was like we were meeting him for the first time. And they fell in love with him in a different way than the ways they had loved him already. And it was their love and their patience and their attention that allowed the content and accomplished young man Jack Allnut is today to emerge from the desperate person he was through much of his childhood. So I leave you today with these thoughts. First, that I'm honored to receive this award. Second, how very tremendously I admire Greg and Jalynn Prince. Third, that autism is not an illness, that it is often a disability, that it is profoundly an identity, and that the disability and identity labels are not in opposition. And finally, that it's meeting families such as the Allnuts and seeing what's possible with children who seem to present such enormous challenges that gives me hope for humanity and hope that we're at the brink of a brighter time in which the generosity that I have been examining becomes more and more widespread. Let us all bask in the beauty of that recognition of our common humanity. Thank you.
So in Austin, we walk into a room and this short little lady walks in and doesn't really talk to us. And then she just started talking to Jack.
Oh, see you in the cold. Yes. Good. Something gives us it.
And it was 4 days. She had a stack of paper and a couple pencils. And she had templates with letters cut out in them, 3 of them. And she showed him how to take the pencil and point to the letter. So she kind of walked him through the first couple.
You're going to find it. Yes, ABCD.
And then she started asking questions, and then she would answer. She'd say the word, she'd write the word, and then she'd get him to spell it. We were thinking, okay, well, this is good. It's almost a parlor trick, but that's fine.
Then she started to ask more abstract questions.
Just ask him, tell me anything about it.
It was a very tedious, long process.
NBA speech, mashed potato. What about pumpkin pie? Oh, you don't like the pumpkin pie? You're not quite fond of it? Oh, okay, I'm not the pumpkin pie. You're not fond of that.
We were off and running asking him all kinds of questions about, do you like sports? What's your favorite sport? And he wanted a blue basketball.
And a basketball would be a favorite.
Now she got her attention. And she said, Jack just can't control his body, but you've got to keep going. You have to just talk to him, and you've got to ignore this. This is him. His body is taken over. You just got to work through it.
Toward the end of the week, he was exhausted. He was having a huge tantrum. Huge. And she would say, "What's the matter, Jack? Let's talk about it. What's the matter?"
Now, you tell me. Anybody.
And through his rage, he started spelling letters with the stencils. He typed out, "I'm trying, and I'm really smart." And then Jack was perfectly quiet. He was like, I finally got it out after all these years.
And that was that was the moment when I just went, my God, he's in there.
I couldn't believe it. It was like I was meeting him for the first time. Like, oh my gosh, you're real?
I can hear better than lots of people. But I am sensitive to many noises that most people can't really hear. It sounds like a crazy, very loud combination of buzzing and voices.
It's got a nice tone to it. Yeah, it's pretty disappointing one. Those plastic ones aren't so good. They don't make much noise.
I am Jack Allnut. I am 13. I don't talk. I type. I try to talk. I can't, it is too hard.
As a mom, that's all I needed. I just needed to know what's going on inside your head.
Can you describe what it feels like for you to not be able to talk?
H E
Keep going.
the feeling like
The feeling is like.
a
Keep going.
tiger. I N C
Look.
A
Look right at that letter so you get it right.
G E dot. The feeling is like a tiger in a cage. Thank you, Madison House. Love, Jack.
Andrew, we're delighted that you are a recipient of the Madison Award this year. You are making a difference in people's lives every day. Thank you. Madison House Autism Foundation for the last decade has been actively working in the field of housing for adults with autism and related disabilities. We have gone from doing things locally to being respected on the national stage as being the premier group in addressing housing issues and uniting a country behind a movement that is so necessary to ensure that there will be appropriate housing as adults age on the autism spectrum. Heading the department is Desiree Kamika Galloway, who has been absolutely amazing in expanding our reach and teaching people across the country how they can address the issues in their own locations. Recently, we have been involved in a partnership, actually, that has been around for quite a while with us, in working with First Place Arizona and Denise Resnick, who is absolutely amazing. We found that it was necessary to come together with using common language across the country. There's been work on a project, and it will be available for download for you. It's called A Place in the World, and it can help those of you who are interested in working on issues with housing to be able to understand the terminology and what many of the options are that are available. We would like to thank people that we have been working with, especially Denise and First Place Arizona. The Daniel Jordan Fiddle Foundation for Public Policy, Morrison Institute for Public Policy at Arizona State University, Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions at Arizona State University. It takes many organizations, many people working together. We are pleased to have been part of this partnership in bringing this new work to light. Before I turn the time over to Desiree for her presentation, there will be a brief video that will set the stage so you'll understand more about the importance of the study that has just been created and the importance of housing in this population.
Over the next decade, we're looking at about another 1 million adults with autism transitioning from high school into adulthood. The issue is there's a lack of appropriate accommodations for these individuals to thrive.
As is usual in the disability community, families are rallying and organizing, but we are still trying to get the word out about the level of need.
Most of the people with developmental disabilities are poor. So almost without exception, the housing that you're going to be able to access has got to be profoundly affordable housing. And the mechanisms for building that housing are inadequate. They just aren't producing enough houses. And it's a huge crisis in the country. It's going to take, an enormous amount of creativity, but it's also going to require a significant shift in public policy.
Current housing policy responds a lot to politics and people's philosophies more than to proven market data.
Data is critical. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you want to make a case for either changing an existing policy that might be an impediment, or if you want to put new policy options on the table, any person that you speak with is going to want to see the data.
You also can't claim to have an excellent service provision program unless you have research supporting the strategies that are most effective in helping adults with autism become employed and build strong relationships, become independent. But historically, almost all of the research focus has been on children in schools and also the focus of funding.
Unfortunately, we've gotten really lousy outcomes after we've made significant investments. We can't afford to let people graduate from high school to a couch. We need to make sure that we are creating more hopeful futures in communities where people live. The biggest barrier to igniting a marketplace is, number one, to speak the same language, and two, to demonstrate that it works.
We are excited as the Autism Housing Network to come together with First Place Arizona, as well as partnering with Arizona State University and their Morrison Institute for Public Policy. With our partnership with American Airlines, we have been able to fly in experts from all over the country in order to guide the launch of scalable solutions for the neurodiverse housing market.
Our big vision is to ensure that housing and community options are as bountiful for people with autism and other neurodiversities as they are for everyone else.
Look at what the impact this has on our community.
One of the things I find particularly exciting about this research initiative is we get the opportunity to co-create new knowledge with some visionaries. And that's exciting because we don't want our research to sit on a shelf. What we want it to do is to inform the decision making that's happening in the community and at the same time inspire future scholars who will select this type of research for their career paths.
We could forge these alliances. I think that could be really effective.
A Place in the World project is not just a housing report for four walls. It's a call for the private sector, the public sector, the philanthropic sector, and the not-for-profit sector to come together so that we can create a future that is life-affirming, where people with autism in every community can find their place in the world. Thank you for joining us on our Autism After 21 Day of Action. I am thrilled that you're here to learn more about how we empower local communities to solve the national housing crisis. Some people ask me, well, why focus on housing? 10 years ago, I started working for Madison House Autism Foundation as a graduate student intern. I very specifically remember the Prince family asking me, go and find out what other organizations are doing for adults with autism. So I started researching everything, and I came across the Opening Doors study, which was the first housing study that looked at housing and autism. And there was a clear, glaring gap. And it became very real to me that without housing, everything else falls apart. You see, for individuals on the autism spectrum, they could find the perfect job or the perfect service provider, their circle of friends, their faith community. But if they can't find housing when they can no longer live with their family, they're going to be forced to move out of their community into whatever the next empty bed may be. When we talk about affordable, accessible housing, we don't often think about people with autism or Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, but we need to. And that's kind of where our story begins, is because housing is the key to life stability. And so we took the recommendations from the Opening Doors study and we developed the Autism Housing Network, our first housing initiative, an online hub of information where people can go to one source and be inspired and see different emerging options and housing resources and read stories so that they can think about, well, what would be best for me, or what would be best for my loved one, or what would be best for my community. We went off and we visited over 100 residential communities across the country and even globally. And we started to hear that people were experiencing barriers to what they thought would be perfect in their community. And there was a lot of the same type of threads. And so we decided that it would be necessary to create an entity, an initiative that kind of brought together these similar voices so that we could speak with one voice to policymakers to ensure that policy is opening doors and not creating unintended barriers for life choices for adults with autism and other neurodiversities. We then also started our third initiative, which is the Empowering Communities Initiative. And this is where we give practical tools to local communities and individuals. Every week, I have consultations with individuals who are stuck and just need that one-on-one assistance to be able to find options and the path forward for them. But I also talk to emerging projects about how they could turn their vision into reality. I host visiting workshops. I do market analysis where we educate the local community, where we gather information on their needs and their preferences. And then we approach local leaders saying, how are we going to be able to meet the demand so that people with neurodiversities in your community do not have to be displaced? We also developed a masterclass for local communities who are interested in developing co-housing, essentially building your own neighborhood. We partnered with Katie McCammett from Co-Housing Solutions, world famous founder of co-housing in the US. And then just recently, I spoke at the UN Habitat World Cities Forum, because the reality is we might be experts here in the US, but the knowledge that we have gained, we need to be able to share with others, because what works in the US is not going to work in India, is not going to work in Jamaica, is not necessarily going to work in Argentina. Different local communities need to understand what options are, what others have learned to be able to create the needed solutions in their communities. And we're excited to be able to partner with international organizations so that we can create a global movement for more housing options. And I am so excited to finally share that the A Place in the World Housing Market Guide has been published. For so long, we've kind of stumbled over words with, well, how do we describe these emerging projects and how do you articulate your vision? Well, now there is a resource that defines 150 different residential terms. And it lays out very plainly in 2 policy papers that we need to raise the red flags and say, hey, government, local communities, not-for-profit, philanthropic, private sector, we need to create solutions, housing solutions that people with autism and other neurodiversities can have access to, because they're valuable to our local communities. And we need to understand that without housing, we're going to lose neurodiversity in communities across the country. So I ask you to support us. Support us not just financially, which we do need, but also support us with your network. We want to help you at the local level be able to make your community more neuro-inclusive. The Autism Housing Network, the Coalition for Community Choice, and the Empowering Community Initiatives are the 3 housing programs of the Madison House Autism Foundation. The Madison House Autism Foundation does much more than just housing. But I invite you to think about, would your loved one be able to find affordable, accessible housing in your community? How many people who are experiencing homelessness in your community right now are on the autism spectrum? And does your local planning commission know that individuals with neurodiversities need housing? It's your network, your local communities that have to do the work on the ground, but we are going to be there to be able to empower you and give you the practical tools and advice so that all across the country, there can be places for people like Jack where he can find his niche and his place in the world. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you continue to support us at the Madison House Autism Foundation.
Thank you, Desiree, for that wonderful presentation. I hope you can understand more clearly now the issues and urgency behind working on housing for individuals with autism and related disabilities. We have many partnerships and many people that are working with us, and there are some people that I would like to acknowledge today, and they will be addressing you just briefly from various locations. First of all, I would like to tell you about Steve Durante. He was to be our host at Congressional Country Club, but is a huge supporter of ours. He's been in telecommunications for the last 30 years. With very responsible and important positions in that arena. He has a lot of engagements in other aspects of life, including entertainment. He serves on the advisory committee to the Emrose Records and Play It Again Publishing, on the board of the U.S. Open, the Simpson Cup, and chairman of the AT&T National, Quicken Loans, and currently the Tiger Woods Charity Playoff. And he's been the past president of Congressional Country Club. He has been amazing in being very supportive of us and the work that we're doing. And we look forward to having him as our host when we can do another live and in-person event, along with hopefully doing many more virtual events so we can share information with people across the country. After Steve Durante, Barbara Ebel, a member of our board of directors, a remarkable lady in her professional life and is a very sought-after speaker, both in the area of employment, but also the employment of individuals with diversities. She also happens to be a parent of a daughter on the autism spectrum. And then finally, some of our dear friends from this location, the Fairbanks family, Amy, Galen, and their son, Douglas. We want you to see the many wonderful people that make up the array of autism. Now I'd like to turn the time over to Steve Durante, followed by Barbara Ebel and the Fairbanks family.
name is Barbara Yibon, and I am a mother of a daughter on the autism spectrum. I am pleased to be a member of the board of directors of Madison House Autism Foundation, which is doing many remarkable things to help my daughter and millions like her to make a better future. As our children are transitioning to adult life after high school, the work can be a challenge place to navigate because most communities have not taken into consideration the accommodations needed to incorporate individuals with autism into everyday life. Today, we address the need for housing. Family ask, what will happen to my adult child if I am no longer around, or where would they live? Madison House is addressing these questions and many others by helping communities across the country to find answers. Today we need your support because we can actually prepare our future for our children that are becoming adults, and your support is needed more than ever. Thank you.
Hi, we're the Fairbanks family, Amy, Galen, and our son Douglas.
We have known Madison House Foundation for the last decade. We've seen the work that they are doing and have participated locally with some of their endeavors. Madison House was one of the first organizations in the country to address the lifespan issues of adults on the autism spectrum, like our son. They are helping across the country as well as in our community in Montgomery County, Maryland. They are working to better the lives and address the challenges of autistic adults. We would like to encourage you to be supportive in their efforts as they move forward with this important work. It is a challenging time for nonprofits, but the need is increasing. Please consider a donation to Madison House and be supportive during this Autism After 21 Day of Action. We thank you and parents and families across the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
You just got to hear from 3 members of the Madison House Autism family. Thank you, Steve Durante, for your comments, insights, and support. Barbara, you're wonderful to have on the board and to give the voice of a parent. And Fairbanks, thank you so very much for bringing us into your home and sharing your comments with us. We come to an end of this portion of our presentation. We've been working on some very heavy issues with the idea of housing and the importance that it is across the country and the influence that Madison House Autism Foundation has had in this particular arena. We also know that once you have a house, it's very important that you have a supportive community behind you. We have an initiative with our Autism After 21, and that is the Arts for Autism. There's a profound impact that the arts have on giving a greater understanding about autism. I've been in arts administration for much longer than I'd like to admit that I've been alive. So it was important to bring the arts aspect into our foundation because I know the power of art and what it can communicate. We are bringing together individuals from across the community, people of many different abilities within the arts. Some of the people are world caliber performers that have had critical acclaim around the world. And we have others who are emerging artists and people who are expressing themselves through art and letting us know who they are through the art that they produce. We don't say we're just doing art for individuals on the autism spectrum because that doesn't create a new normal. But as we bring people with all abilities together, either in an art gallery or on the stage or in a video like this, because we're all equal. Yes, some may have greater training than others or may have had more opportunity to pursue their art. But nonetheless, coming together in our humanity and in the arts to let the rest of the world know and understand that there can be a new normal within our communities where people can come together. I'm going to introduce some very interesting people, and for anybody who is interested in the arts at all, we invite you to participate and to view. For those that are interested in going to concerts and performances of that nature, some of the people that you will find listed are on our board or are supporters of autism. And you'll find in their bios, often in some of the largest concert venues in the world, that they are mentioning that they are supporters of moving forward, understanding about adults with autism. So we get into many different aspects of our community by stepping into the arts. But it's also something very, very enjoyable. I would like to start the second portion of our presentation this morning with introducing someone to you, a young violinist who is making such a name for himself and is critically acclaimed for his virtuosity with violin. He is going to share one of his pieces as he was playing with an orchestra at Royal Albert Hall. He'll tell you a little bit more about it. But Chad Hoops has been a supporter of ours and a friend of Madison House, and his life has been touched by autism. As with all of the other people here, either they are on the spectrum or they have connections to people on the spectrum and they want to share their art. Now I'd like to turn the time over to Chad Hoops.
My name is Chad Hoops, and I am a classical violinist. I have had the great opportunity to perform for audiences in the most celebrated venues around the world. But having the opportunity to share my music for a cause such as this one means a great deal to me, because I have had many people in my life who have been impacted by autism. I grew up with a childhood neighbor who had autism, had classmates, Madison Prince, and even a close relative with autism. So having the opportunity to share music and shine a light on a cause that has impacted me personally and so many that I know is meaningful to me. My mission is to make more people in the world aware of adults with autism and how we can make their lives better if we start conversations about autism and work together to find inclusion. I'd like to share this brief musical presentation, which comes from a place of deep love and passion. I encourage other artists and artists on the spectrum to share their talents and their art to help further the greater understanding of autism, sometimes unseen but deeply important.
Next on the docket, we had listed a very dear friend of Madison House, Shushu Scantlin. But because of technology and the things that we've learned getting ready for this program, there have been a few technical difficulties in getting her presentation put together, but it has opened the door for us to understand how we can share something even more exciting with you in the near future. Let me tell you a little bit about Shushu so you'll know what to look forward to. She is one of the few women in the country that is a big band leader. She's delightful to see in action. She's a performer, an author, and a public speaker. She was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, but did not know about that diagnosis until she was in her 40s. Since then, she has become an advocate speaking about autism and helping people understand more about it. She is a complex, wonderful, delightful, and extremely talented lady, and I know that you'll enjoy the surprise that we have up our sleeve for later on. When we've had our performances or our breakfasts at Congressional Country Club for the last several years, we have had music wafting in the background, and it has been provided by a fellow by the name of Jack Ahalt, who is a pianist. We also did a feature for him on Imagine 21 and did a mini documentary. We want to share that with you today because you can understand more about his art and his passion, but how it has also led to a career for him. May I turn the time now to Jack Ahalt, and he just wants to bring joy to the world with his music. Here's Jack.
Ever since I saw Fantasia, I've been in love with classical music. I've been taking music lessons for 24 years. Music has helped me find friendship and freedom and lots of groups of friends.
I got to know Jack through my church and my choir. He's got perfect pitch, so he always lets the choir director know when we're in the wrong key. He gets very upset with himself whenever he does something he thinks is wrong. Everybody encourages him and helps him in those difficult times. We all have different ways of dealing with things, and I think it's important for him to be included. He fits in very well.
In preschool, Jackie was singing a solo for A Hunting We Will Go, and we could just tell that he was really in his element.
Let's do that one more time. From beginning to end.
So we put him in choirs from elementary school on. It's very rewarding for him not only to have a peer group to relate to, but also that they are interested in music as well. The same thing with piano craft. He goes to work with 13 musicians, and it's a real passion that they have.
I've been working at piano craft for 11 years and 8 months. I clean the dishes, I take out the trash and recycling, I check in packages, sometimes I stamp envelopes. But what I do most of all is tune pianos.
2 years before he graduated from high school, his music teacher suggested that she would see if her tuner would be willing to apprentice Jack. Sam Powell was his name. He said, well, I want to see if he can tune. Jack tuned a string, and then he said, I want to see if that was a fluke. So he had him tune another string, and he said, this child can tune a piano. And that was just the most wonderful thing I had ever heard, that somebody gives your child a chance. The world just looked like a different place.
Jack is such a great tuner. I mean, he's the standard for our audition for professional techs who spent their lives going to school on it. Every day you find out more that he can do. He's really great at walking into a system and doing the task perfectly. Anything that gets off that systemized schedule. If the ride came late, if we're in the kitchen messing it up when he's got to go, that is, when we have to kind of redirect him. But we know how to get the best out of Jack. Once you spend time with them, you really have a roadmap.
I was really glad to see you there. You have to see the person as a contributing person, but also as a person who needs a level playing field. You have to learn some skills also, but what you get in return is a really hardworking person who will really do a fine job for you.
Starry, starry night.
I can't imagine Piano Craft without Jack. He's one of the few at this point that have this opportunity. Imagine the millions that are just sitting there.
Frameless heads on nameless walls.
I hope all businesses can get enlightened on this. There's some gifts here that none of your other employees are probably even going to have. We're going to find, like we found, that it's one of the best moves I've ever made as a business.
It's been my dream to bring joy into the world someday. And I feel that music could help the world.
They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now.
And here is Jack and his family. Please wave hello to everybody, and thank you so much for being with us.
This is the A-Halts. We're so glad to be with you virtually and hope we can be together soon.
And I've been having virtual piano and voice lessons with my piano and voice teacher. And I've been tuning my own piano every once in a while.
We wish you the best of years and hope you have good health and good times together and stay safe.
Hope to see you soon.
I would now like to introduce you to someone who I've known for quite a while, even though I had no idea he was such an incredible talent, until I saw him playing Gilbert in Les Miserables with a cast of 500 people behind him. He happens to be a brother of someone who is on the spectrum, and he also works as a disability instructor with his family as they provide different opportunities for individuals on the spectrum. Robert is a sophomore studying for a BFA in acting at the University of Connecticut. Currently, he's rehearsing for a Zoom production of the play Everybody that will run in early December. And he's doing a lot of other virtual works right now and is studying, yes, at home. He is absolutely phenomenal, but he is selected to sing a very tender song in honor of his brother. May I present Robert Liniak.
Hello, my name is Robert Liniak, and I am a sophomore acting major at the University of Connecticut. And the song that I'm about to sing for you, I want to dedicate to my big brother, John. I have been fortunate in the career path that I've chosen that John and I have always been able to make a connection through music. I picked this song specifically because of the line, "We take for granted a lot." I know I do. But what's amazing is I know someone who doesn't, and it's my brother. So to John, you are my light in the darkness. In your laughs, your positivity, and your hard work, you provide an example that I do my best to follow every day. But I know no one else can do it quite like you. I hope I do you proud. For the joy that you've brought me since the day I was born, it is the least I can do. I hope you enjoy. It started out like a song. We started quiet and slow, with no surprise. And then one morning I woke to realize we had a good thing going. It It's not that nothing went wrong. Some angry moments, of course, but just a few. And only moments, no more, because we knew we had this good thing going. And if I wanted too much, was that such a mistake at the time? You never wanted enough, alright, tough, I don't make that a crime. And while it's going along, you take for granted some love will wear away. We took for granted a lot, but still I say we could have kept on growing instead of just kept on. We had a good thing going. Thank you.
Our next segment will feature Fran Ichijo, who has the Hope Garden Ballet. She lives in an area near us and is a remarkable woman. She has a world caliber background in ballet and has brought it into her community and is changing lives through the arts. She knows the power of inclusion, the power of the arts, the power it has to communicate, and also the power that it has to bring people together with a common understanding. Hope Garden Ballet has been a sponsor for Madison House as well. They do a fundraiser each year for us during their summer performances. It has been greatly appreciated. Fran has a son by the name of Kenji, who is on the autism spectrum and is part of the ballet, and everybody adores Kenji. I'm delighted to call Fran a friend, supporter, and parent. I hope you'll enjoy her comments and her insights into ballet and the arts.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank Jillian Prince and Greg Prince for having me speak today about arts and autism. I'm so grateful that they asked me to be here. You can see my kids are dancing, rehearsing in the background. We have a small virtual show coming up. So my name is Fran Ichijo, and I am the director of Hope Garden Ballet Academy, which I started over 20 years ago in Poolesville. And I'm looking at my notes, so if I look to the side, I am wife of Yoshi Ichijo, mother of 3 children, and one of my children is Kenji Ichijo, who is 35, and he is on the autism spectrum. So I suppose that's how I know Jillian, although two of our other children went to school together in Barnesville School, so that's many connections we have. But I'm so grateful for their work for autistic people, the autistic population. What an amazing job they've done with Madison House Autism Foundation and Madison Fields, which is a particular love of mine. For the past 5 years, we have dedicated our summer performance to Madison Fields, and every donation that was raised went directly to Madison Fields. So the kids benefited a lot because they got to perform for a cause. So the autistic cause helped them because they got to dance not just for themselves, but they were really dancing for a cause. And the audience got to participate in making it a great event and donating to the autistic population. So it benefits everybody to do arts for the sake of autism. And plus it made more awareness for the arts, for the cause of autism and how the arts can help the autistic population. So the arts, singing, music, dance are and should be inclusive and should be a shared experience. So that's so far how we have been able to share our love of ballet and get the kids involved with helping the autistic population. And as well, we feel that arts can make a new normal. We're in a crazy unnormal time now with coronavirus, but the arts can make a new normal for our population of autistic people so that they can experience the arts. My son loves to sing, and we can perform for an autistic audience. We can even adjust the music or adjust the clapping so it doesn't affect those who are hurt by the sound of loud music or loud clapping. So we're trying to make a new paradigm so that the arts can be inclusive with our autistic population. We're also very grateful, my husband and I, for all the lessons we've learned from our beautiful son, Kenji. We feel the autistic population has been put on the planet to help teach us. So thank you very much, Jillian and Dr. Greg. Have a great day.
As we go into the final segment of our Arts for Autism, concluding our event today, I would like to again thank the staff, thank our partners, and also our supporters. We want to acknowledge the participation of all of these individuals to make this event happen today. And please take action today with the things that you have learned, and share word about adults with autism, and make a space in your communities and in your policies and in your attitudes for adults on the spectrum. We will all be enriched. As we conclude the end of this program, I will just say thank you for being with us, and say that we are going to have a retrospective coming on the screen next about some of our favorite art pieces from art shows that we've done since 2013 on to 2020. We hope you enjoy it, and we will play again the beautiful music with Mario and Keandra. And come back, enjoy things with us. We will be presenting other things and including our community, and trying to make certain that the world is a better place for individuals that are adults on the autism spectrum, that they will be able to more fully give to us, and that we will be able to benefit from what they are giving, but that we can have generosity of spirit and of action to make certain that there's not only awareness, but inclusion in our communities. Thank you so much for being with us, and enjoy our art show.
Hey everyone, my name is Mario Silaksana. I'm here with my friend Keandra May. We are here in Detroit, Michigan, and we're going to be playing some music for you this afternoon. But before we begin, I just wanted to mention briefly that the reason I'm here today is because of Madison. Madison Prince. He is somebody I've gotten to know in the past year, and I've developed a friendship with him that I really cherish, and through music. And so the song that we're going to perform for you all is one that I know he really enjoys, and one that I really enjoy playing. And so thank you all for being here and tuning in and supporting this excellent cause. And without further ado, here is Keandra.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I I see them bloom for me and for you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're only saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, and I say to myself, what a wonderful world.